So as I said, I'm Rachel. I'm joined today by Erin. Erin is one of our science research librarians over at James Branch Cabell Library, and we would like to welcome you to today's Advancing Your Research, Keeping Track of Your Citations webinar. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please let me know in the participants panel if you can hear me talking. So to do that, if you could just go to participants and select the little green button that says yes. Hopefully you all can hear me, and if not, hopefully that isn't an issue, but if you can't hear us, hopefully there's some communication maybe going on in the chat box to make sure. So I'm going to make sure I have that. Nope, it looks like everyone so far is good to go. So our greatest aim today is going to be to show you two freely available citation managers, and that's those two managers are called Zotero and Mendeley, and we're going to demonstrate their different features. So given our time constraints, we won't be able to get into some of the more specific details or advanced details of each citation manager, but we do hope to give you enough information that you'll be able to choose the tool that's best for your style of research. So our objectives for today's webinar are as follows up on the slide. So we hope that you'll be able to, at the end of the session, learn what a citation manager does, learn how Mendeley and Zotero are different, and also be able to choose, like I said, the best tool for your particular research needs. So after today's webinar, if you feel like you need more information about either of these resources, you do have a few options. First, you can contact your liaison librarian. So each department at VCU has one. For instance, I am the liaison to the VCU School of Pharmacy, but we've included a link below that will take you to a page listing who your liaison is and who you can get in contact with if you would like to ask some questions about either of these tools or about citation managers in general. The second thing you can do is included in the second link below on the slide under additional citation management webinars. Each semester we offer a few different schedulings of webinars that are specifically devoted to either Mendeley or Zotero. So it's a whole 40 minutes or so about Mendeley or a whole 40 minutes or so about Zotero. So they do get into some more specific details in those webinars. So if you're interested in something like that, you can absolutely check out this link here and see when those classes are being offered, if they're being offered anymore this semester. I don't know off the top of my head. But like I said, you can always get help, no matter what time of the semester it is, from your liaison librarian. Okay, so why even bother using a citation manager? Well, managing a list of references or citations for a written project can be a really kind of frustrating and lengthy process. So fortunately, citation management tools like Zotero and Mendeley can help save time. So instead of going back to trace all the sources you used in your paper once you're finished writing your paper, citation tools can help you manage your biographical information while you're doing your research. So again, this can save you a lot of time, it can save you a lot of energy, and better yet, it keeps your citations organized and accessible. So both Zotero and Mendeley can help you manage your research by assisting you in organizing all of these sources. So which one is better for you generally depends on the formats of your sources, how you interact with those sources, and how you go about finding those sources. So we're going to talk about Zotero first, but the first thing that you need to do for either Zotero or Mendeley is download the program. So you'll notice that there are a couple of things that you need to download, and what you would do is you would go to the actual websites for either of these programs. So for instance, I've got the link here to zotero.org/download, which is where you would go to find all of the Zotero information that you need to download to your computer to use. So you'll notice that in Zotero, as well as in Mendeley, so these are screenshots from both the Zotero website on the left and the Mendeley website on the right. Both programs have a few different things that you'll need to download. So it's not just one and done. There are a couple of things that you have to download. So both programs automatically know that I'm working on a Mac computer, but you can download either program to a PC as well. That's completely fine. But I'll first need to download the application. I'm going to call it the desktop application to each computer that I regularly use. So no matter which one, either Zotero or Mendeley, you do have to download a program that's installed on your computer. And you can see down here below in my list of programs, I've got Zotero open and it's downloaded on my desktop or on my computer. So then I'm also going to need to download the web extension called the Zotero connector on Zotero. So that's what I have over on the right-hand side of the screenshot. So you can see it automatically knows I'm using Google Chrome to connect. But that's called the Zotero connector. And then in Mendeley, it's called the Mendeley web importer. So that's down below on the left-hand side of the Mendeley screenshot. So these are browser extensions, and they allow you to add items to your Zotero or Mendeley libraries from the web. And all this really means, and I'm going to show you an example in a moment, but all that means is that a tiny icon is going to be installed to, at least in Google Chrome, the right side of your URL bar, and I'll point that out in real time when we get to it. But it's an extension that's installed so that you can utilize it on the web. And so, like I said, Zotero and Mendeley both automatically know which browser you're accessing the website from, and they can install the extension relatively quickly. But you can also download the extension for other browsers as well, so it doesn't just have to be Chrome. I believe it also works for Firefox as well as Safari. So once you download Zotero or Mendeley, you will need to set up or register for your free account. Once you download, so you have to register for your free account, and the reason that you want to do this is to allow for syncing among multiple computers. So then you'll have access to your library both in your desktop application as well as on the web. And you'll be able to sync between the two using that one account that you register for. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new tab and head on over to, actually I am going to go to my Zotero page actually. Sorry about that. Let's try to make this full screen. There we go. So let's chat about Zotero specifically for a moment. So one reason why you might consider Zotero as your citation manager of choice is because, first of all, it's open source. So this means that anyone can work on the backside of Zotero. There is a group at George Mason University, that monitors the operation of Zotero. So they kind of oversee the operation. But anyone who can program and code can work on the program itself. So this means that any bugs occurring in Zotero, and remember, Zotero is free, so there are sometimes bugs or glitches. But because it's open source, typically these different bugs and glitches can be resolved much faster than a proprietarily owned program like Mendeley, which is owned by Elsevier. So one other thing is that Zotero allows you to cite more source formats than Mendeley, including DVDs, live performances, websites, blog posts, non-text materials basically, like films, recordings, podcasts, artwork, etc. So if your research sources extend beyond the more traditional sources like articles, book chapters, papers, Zotero is probably the citation manager for you, although Zotero does do a fine job citing traditional sources as well. So right now I've got my Zotero application open, and you can see I use it heavily. So I've actually got probably tens of thousands of citations in here, if I'm completely honest. I have a lot of citations in here, but I work on really big reviews as part of my job. But we can see how the organization of Zotero appears, right? So on the left side of the screen, you can see all of my sources. So every single source I have resides in my library. If you remember back to iTunes, if anyone uses iTunes or has used iTunes in the past, your library is what contains all of the songs in your excuse me, in your iTunes account. And then you can create little podcasts to organize your songs the way that you want them to be played. And so it works much the same in Zotero. So you've got your My Library, and all of your sources reside in My Library. And then you can kind of organize them into subfolders or subcollections is the lingo that Zotero uses. This works much the same in Mendeley. And if you want to add a collection, you can simply click on the folder icon up here in the far left corner of the page. So it says New Collection. You can enter a new title. So I'm just going to do Test. Click OK. And a new collection will pop up underneath your library. You can also add subcollections, and you can do that simply by right-clicking. There we go. And adding a new subcollection. And we can do subcollection. Click OK, and you'll see it is nested under my test folder. And so that's how I typically set up all of my folders. You can organize it however you want. It's completely up to you. I like to organize my collections by the project I'm working on, and then kind of make sub-collections based on where the citations are being imported from, so which database they're being imported from or which website they're being imported from. And this test collection is what I'm going to work with today for demonstration in this webinar. So my project is maybe this test collection, and then these are a few different places where you can, where I might pull in citations from. So if we're going to look at the CDC website and PubMed specifically during my time with Zotero today. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do to show you how to import citations into Zotero so you can see how this works is to do this from a website. So like I said before, one of the things that Zotero excels at, especially when compared to Mendeley and other citation managers, is importing citations from websites. So I'm going to come over into Firefox, and let's say I'm doing some research about the Zika virus, right? It's almost summer, and I'm sure we'll start hearing about the Zika virus. So let's say I want to do some research on that, and I want to know what kind of information the Centers for Disease Control or the CDC include on their website. So I'm going to navigate to the CDC website now, so cdc.gov. And I'm going to find a page that gives me an overview of Zika. So I'm going to come into Diseases and Conditions, go More. Zika starts with Z. And here we've got Zika virus infection. All right, so let's do about Zika. Let's say I'm interested in this overview page about Zika. So we've got a bunch of information here, and I want to cite some of this information. I want to make sure that I import it into Zotero so I can use it in a paper later. Okay. So you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, there's a little Z here for the Zotero connector. And you'll also notice there's the import to Mendeley or Mendeley web importer up here as well. So when I was telling you earlier about the installation of the extensions into your browsers, this is where they reside. So in Firefox and in Google Chrome, they're typically on the right-hand side of your URL bar. It might be different for Safari. I'm not sure because I don't typically use Safari. But that's what they look like. And so I'm going to come up to our Zotero connector. I'm going to click on it. Oops. Got it. Where did it go? All right, well, I don't know where it just, oh, there it is. It just changed looks. Okay, so I've clicked on the little piece of paper. Now the icon, instead of a Z, is a little piece of paper. And you'll notice, and it just did it quickly, so I'm going to have to do it again, but you'll notice that it gives me a choice for where I want to save to, and instead of PubMed, I want to save it to that CDC folder. Oops. Got to do it quickly, I guess. So now it's saving to my CDC folder that I've already set up in my Zotero account. So it is often best practice to make your folders ahead of time, as you've seen. Like I said, I like to make mine based on the website or the database where I'm pulling the citation from. So that's why I've got my folder already set up with CDC. If you don't have a lot of citations in your library, it's not going to make much of a difference. But because I do have so many citations, I don't want to have to search for that one Zika virus website citation in all of these my libraries. So that's why I like to set up the folders beforehand. All right, so I can see and that I can double check that the citation pulled in successfully. And I can come in here, we can see on the right-hand side, this down here is all of the citation information that was pulled from the web page. So I was able to pull information about the title, the website title, the URL, the date that we accessed the information, and so on. So this is all information and data that would be necessary to make a citation. So if you were to compare this imported data with the quality of doing the same thing in Mendeley or even another citation manager, you'd notice that depending on the website, information might be missing. So Mendeley just really isn't as good for this type of citation importation. Also, just note here that the quality of information that's included over in this right-hand side panel it's going to differ depending on the quality of the website itself. So because the CDC is a fairly robust website, Zotero was able to pull in more data to supply these fields. But if the website was less sophisticated, there may not be as much data available for Zotero to import. Therefore, this area might look a little like it's missing information. But that's not necessarily the fault of Zotero. It's more just the lack of information on the website. Okay. So I want to show you one other way that Zotero excels, and that is in batch importing records from a research database. So I'm going to head back over into Firefox, and I'm going to navigate to the PubMed database through the VCU Libraries website. And because so many of our users are in the health sciences, I think showing how to import citations from PubMed is really important. So I'm just going to do a quick search for VCU TML, and the Tompkins McCall Library for the Health Sciences website will be the first option that shows up in your Google results. But I do recommend you bookmark this page or the VCU Libraries website in general because, hey, you're going to be using it a lot, I assume. And I'm going to navigate into PubMed. All right, so this is the PubMed interface. Some of you may be familiar with it if you're in the health sciences. And I'm going to execute a search up here in my search bar for Zika virus. All right, and now what I can do is I can skim through, and obviously there's 5,300 citations. This is not a great search, but just for the purposes of demonstrating how to use Zotero, what I can do is I can skim through and pick out a few articles that maybe I'm interested in reading and importing into my citation manager. So I can click maybe the first three. Maybe these three are ones that I find interesting. And I'm just clicking on the little box that is next to each of the hyperlinked titles. So I can choose three. I'm going to come up to my Zotero importer. You can see it looks a little different now. It looks like a little manila folder. And I think that's because we're on a database rather than a little piece of paper when it looks like on a website. I'll click on the folder, and you'll notice that this little pop-up box comes up. And here, this is called the Zotero item selector. And what you can do is you can scroll through, and you can either click on the boxes back in PubMed, or you can see it's clicked on these boxes for me in the selector. So again, I can scroll through. These titles all associate and coincide with the titles that are on the page. You can see I've got 20 articles that are showing up in my list of results on this first page in PubMed. and I've got those same 20 articles on this list here. So I can select each one that I want, or I can even select all of them. So again, this is where Zotero really excels, is at batch importing. And so by batch importing, I mean importing a lot of documents at once. So I'm going to cancel this out, and I can even change my per page view to 100 or even 200. 200 takes a little bit of time to load. Oops, let me go back. Deselect these. Okay, change, try that again. So now you can see I'm viewing items 1 to 100, and I can do the same thing. If I wanted to import all 100 of these at a time, I could just click select all and then OK, and they would end up all going into my library. I'm not going to do all 100 because that would just slow the computer way down and Zotero down. That is one thing, is that the more citations that you import, the longer it's going to take. It shouldn't take too long, but not really useful during a webinar setting. So I'm going to select all 20, click OK, and instead of saving to CDC, I want PubMed, and you'll notice they start to come in. So, oh, I selected the wrong PubMed folder instead of my demonstration folder. But that's all right, you can see how it works. So all 20 of those are being imported into my PubMed folder as we speak. So this is really useful in the case that you are writing a comprehensive literature review or a systematic review, or if you ever need to batch import a large number of citations at one time. Zotero does this a lot more effectively and seamlessly than Mendeley. You can do the same thing in Mendeley, it's just not quite as streamlined. Okay, so now that I have a number of citations imported into this Zotero account, we can take a look at one. So all I need to do is click on any title that I want to look at more closely. And if I double click, so I just double clicked, it's going to open up in Chrome because Chrome is my default browser. But if I double click, it will actually take me to the citation itself, which is really nice. And this is where I can download the PDF or read it right from here. So that's pretty handy. I can also see, again, all of the information, all the citation information over on the right-hand side. And this, again, will look very similar in Mendeley. The features might just look a little different. One of the other things I can do is see the tags that are associated with each of these citations. So we can see kind of the subject headings or the most kind of major topics that are associated with the citation. And I can even add my own if I wanted to do that. So it's kind of a nice way to organize your citations. And then also notes. You can add notes. And Zotero allows you to add as many notes as you would like. So you can attach as many as you want to a citation. And I don't believe that this number is endless in Mendeley. So Zotero, you can attach as many as you want. I don't know what that number is in Mendeley. But you can take notes right in here if that's something you're interested in doing, and then share the notes with others if you're collaborating on a project. So we don't have time to go into all of this today again, but Zotero does have the ability to set up groups, which means that you can create a library of citations to share with others. And Erin is going to talk a lot more about how to use groups in Mendeley in just a moment. So that is what I'm going to show you of Zotero for now. We'll get a little bit more into it toward the end of the webinar, but I just want to pause now and see if anyone has any questions about things that we've gone over so far. And after that, I will pass the baton to Erin. So please feel free to type in the chat box to ask a question or unmute yourself. So it looks like we do have one question in the chat box. And so the question is that this individual has always heard that Mendeley was best if you wanted to share citations, and do we think if Zotero is as robust? I'm going to let I guess I wouldn't say one or the other is more robust. They just do completely different things. Erin is going to talk in a moment, so I don't want to steal her thunder, about Mendeley groups and how Mendeley is very similar to almost like social media network in a way, scholarly social media network. So if that's something that you're interested in sharing and disseminating information like that. But I think both are pretty equally robust, and feel free to chime in here, Erin, if you feel differently, in sharing libraries of citations and collaborating that way. I think that you can see in my Zotero library over here on the left-hand side that I have some group libraries available. And again, this is something that you can create in Zotero. And it works functionally very similar to the groups in Mendeley. But stay tuned for more about groups in a moment, and we can always circle back around and chat about that again at the end. Erin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not at this moment. I am going to talk about that a lot, so.
Okay, great, yeah. Don't want to spend too much time then at this point. Okay, one other question is, does Mendeley enable the same type of import from PubMed? No, it doesn't. It has something that works similar. It doesn't function. The batch importer does not function nearly as well. So I would not recommend using the Mendeley web extension importer tool in PubMed. It does not work very well. But there are other ways that you can import citations into Mendeley from PubMed. And that's absolutely something that we can show you at a different point in time. All right. It doesn't look like I have any other questions coming in right at this moment. But again, we'll have time to pause throughout. And at the end, we can definitely circle back around if there's more information. So I'm going to pass this along to Erin to chat about Mendeley.
All right. So I'm going to talk about Mendeley and why you might want to use it, or focusing on the differences. So as you will see throughout my part of the webinar, there's a lot of functional similarities between Zotero and Mendeley, and I will be focusing on the differences between the two. So starting with features, and we kind of started touching on this with the questions that we were getting, that sharing and collaboration are two of the strengths of Mendeley. In fact, on the Mendeley website, it's described as a reference manager and academic social network. So this includes being able to search for and follow other users, and I'll show you what, like Rachel said, you have a desktop application, but you also have, you can use the Citation Manager online, and actually what it looks like when you log into Mendeley online is, it looks like a very stripped down Facebook feed, and they call it a news feed. And it's a news feed of posts and articles from users you follow, and also notifications about recommended resources and users. So these are all recommended because I'm not following anybody. It's just based on stuff that I have in my Mendeley library. It's easy to share citations and attachments and even collaboratively annotate those within groups. The caveat, however, is that so sharing citations, just like here is an article citation, that is something that any citation manager can do pretty easily. You just create a shared folder and invite people to it. Now, Mendeley allows you to, in private groups, share actual attachments of articles, but for reasons of copyright, they want those to be limited to private, as opposed to public groups. And public groups are ones that anybody can look at your citations list, and it can be a really useful way to share, you know, a bunch of literature that you compiled on a certain topic. But if people want to get the full text of those, they have to figure out how to get that themselves. If you want to share the full text of an article with people through Mendeley, it has to be in a private group, and the free plan only allows one private group of 3 people. So it's very small. They're really trying to limit the dissemination of the full text through Mendeley. So another caveat is if you annotate files in Mendeley, and that's another thing I'm going to show you when I get into the desktop, you could actually like make notes on the PDFs that are attached to your citations in Mendeley. But if you want to export your whole library, say if you want to take your citations out of Mendeley and put them into another citation manager such as Zotero, you can't take those annotations. It'll just export the citations. So that's a way that Mendeley wants to lock you in to their tool. And finally, as Rachel mentioned, you can sync your library between devices, and Mendeley also has a mobile app. And looking at, so this is that page that Rachel showed you a screenshot for downloading Mendeley. This one, of course, is showing for Windows because I'm on a Windows machine. So you have the option of completely using the web-based library. If you look, that was my feed, and this is my library. So you can download the desktop, and it looks like this. Pretty similar to Zotero. Also, there's the web importer, and all I'm going to say about it is that it exists and it doesn't work reliably enough for me to even recommend using it. Like, I've just caused myself a lot of headaches trying to use it, but there's other ways to get citations into Mendeley that I will mention, and that might actually work better for you depending on how you do your research. And then there's the citation plugin, which is compatible with Word, which is how you format your paper with the correct citations. Okay, so there's a couple ways that I would recommend using Mendeley, importing references to Mendeley, and that's if you are familiar with citation managers, but I'm also going to demonstrate it. They all allow you to download a file that's specifically for citation managers, and it's has an extension that's .ris or .bib. So you can upload those files into Mendeley, or you can really easily upload or drag and drop a PDF of an article. If you download a lot of articles when you're searching in databases, if you download those PDFs from those databases, Mendeley can read the citation information embedded in those PDFs, and it'll create a record in Mendeley, and it'll attach the PDF to it. And you can also just do that for an entire folder of PDFs. So if you've spent a lot of time curating this library on your machine of PDFs of articles, you don't even have to worry about entering those into Mendeley. You just drag the whole folder in. And you can also set up a watched folder so that as you download stuff, you can put it into that folder, and Mendeley will automatically upload and create citation records. And that's, again, something I'll show you. So first, the getting something from an article database. So I'll just keep with Rachel's search, and I'm using Web of Science just to show you what it looks like in a different interface. So you'll see either on this result page, Save to EndNote Online, but if you click on the drop-down, you can see that there's actually a lot of different options, and this is where you would see Save to other file formats, and you can do that from this page. You can add things to what they call a marked list, which is just creating a folder in the database of a bunch of articles that you want to set aside, and then you can download a citation file for all of those. So that's, you don't have to do it one by one, or you could do it if you are looking at the article page. You can see that drop-down menu is still there. And here is where it tells you the different formats and what you're going to do. In this particular database, it's BibTeX. Other databases might give you a .ras file, and you would just download that. And then here I am in my Mendeley library, and I'm adding a file, and it's in my downloads, and it should end with the .bib. And you can see that it added it and actually opened up the record for it. So, you can do that, like if you are searching in a database, you can do that for a bunch of articles at once. You don't have to go one by one. Just add them to that marked file or whatever file it's called in whatever database. They all have the same feature. So it's basically downloading a file and then putting it into Mendeley. Another way to get references in is to add PDFs. I wonder if I have, I'm just going to download it from the database. So if your workflow looks something like this, where you find the full text of it, and then you download the PDF. Okay. And again, you could have a bunch of PDFs in a folder. And you can see in this record, the PDF is attached down here. That file is attached, and all the information in this was pulled from that PDF. All right, so the one last thing I wanted to show you was creating that watched folder, and you can see this is all of the add files, add folder, import, and this is like the .bib and the .ris, and you can even import a Zotero library or an EndNote library, apparently, if those are things that you've used and you want to get them into Mendeley, but I would say not as easy to get them back out of Mendeley into different citation managers, unfortunately. But in that file menu under add files and add folder, you can create a watch folder. And if I can navigate I created a, so on my machine, I created a Mendeley watch folder demo file. And so that's as easy as it is. And then anything I add to that file is going to automatically be added to my library. So that kind of cuts out a step from, if your workflow is to download PDFs, if you just save them to that folder, Mendeley will take care of putting them into Mendeley for you. And then the last thing I want to say before we break for questions is, you're adding a lot of stuff. You might not be keeping track of, that you might have added the same article that you found in, different databases. So if you click on Tools up here and check for duplicates, you can see what articles they think are duplicates and with the confidence, and then you can put those together and identify, like, if there's areas that where they conflict, which it seems like, these aren't the same at all, but for some reason you can make those edits and like merge duplicate entries together. All right, so I'm going to stop talking for a second before we move on and allow time for questions. Hold on. All right, I need to find, oh, right, well, actually that's after. Hold on, I need to find where the, there's so many things on my desktop. Oh, okay, here we go. I can't see the chats. Oh no, here we go. There it is. All right. I'm going to scroll up. So the one question about how Mendeley enables the same type of import from PubMed, I think Rachel thoroughly answered that. No, it doesn't work. The web importer does not work. Abort web importer. All right, does anyone have any questions about Mendeley? It seems like the Mendeley presentation made everyone think of a lot of questions about Zotero, which is great. And we are going to go over some more of the features after this, but what I've gone over so far, if anyone has any questions about that, you can just type it into the chat, and I'm looking at the chat right now. Or you can unmute yourself. I'm going to give a minute because it can take some time to type. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because Rachel's going to talk again. Oh, okay. But I will let her get her screen up while I answer this question. What are the pros of Mendeley? Does it grab meta info from research articles better than Zotero? If you mean from the PDFs, I don't know. I can't compare. Rachel would probably be better about that. There aren't really, I don't feel like there are any pros of Mendeley. I think it used to be a better tool, and then it got sold to this big company, and they're trying to add a lot of features that I didn't mention because I don't really think that they're the best tool for doing the things it's trying to do. They're trying to basically make a profit off of people's research process. And so I feel like they are not investing really in the reference management part of Mendeley anymore. They're focusing more on the social academic network and a bunch of other stuff. So I would say, especially if you're thinking about like using it as a collaboration tool, I would not recommend that. I would say use it as a citation manager, but I wouldn't say to invest too much in the feature of like editing PDFs, like annotating PDFs in it, because you can't get that out of Mendeley.
Yeah, this is Rachel. I would say the meta info from research articles being imported into both Zotero and Mendeley are probably pretty equal. I know that's not the easiest answer or kind of the answer that maybe people want to hear, but they do both function very similarly in that aspect. But yeah, I think what Erin has to say about kind of what's going on with the proprietariness of Mendeley is accurate. And it is possible to check for duplicates in Zotero too. I figured I'd pop in and just say that really quickly. You can see I've got my Zotero library pulled up right now, and you can see there's a section in here that says duplicate items. When I click on it, it will load, and again, I've got a bunch of stuff in here, so it takes a little while, but it will load all of the different duplicated studies or duplicated articles in here. So you can see this one is duplicated, and you can merge the two items just like that. So yes, the same functionality exists. All right, and it looks like, as Erin and I have been answering questions, it looks like we don't have any new ones coming into the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and move on, but no worries, we can absolutely chat some more at the end of this last little bit that we're going to go over. So I'm going to start off now talking about the Word plugin. I'm going to show you what it looks like in Zotero, and then I'm just going to have Erin come back in at the end and just show you that how it compares with the Word usage in Mendeley. So I'm going to collapse this and pull up my Word document. All right. Okay, so everyone can see my Word document now, I hope. And this is just the one last thing that we kind of want to mention about the two programs is their compatibility with Microsoft Word. So when you download Zotero, the application for your desktop, you're also downloading the Microsoft Word plugin. And I do believe it works the same way with Mendeley. Actually, if I go back to the slides, in Firefox, It doesn't work quite the same way. You do have to, over here on the right-hand side, you can see there's another citation plugin that you download for Mendeley specifically. But when you download Zotero 5.0 for your desktop computer, it will automatically download the Microsoft Word plugin. So this plugin allows you to write your paper and to cite your paper at the exact same time. So it's called Write and Cite, if you will. You'll notice that there is now, in my Word document, a Zotero tab up here at the top of the program. And in that tab, you have options to add and edit citations or add and edit bibliography. When you're ready to start typing up a paper with citations, you would just click on, see if I can maybe zoom this in a little bit. It just zooms in the paper, so I can't really zoom any of these guys in any closer. But once you're ready to start typing up your paper or a manuscript for a journal, whatever it is you're doing, you can just click on Document Preferences and note that you do have to have, oh, what's it doing? Okay, just taking a second. You click on Document Preferences and note that you do have to have the Zotero program open. So I have my Zotero program open at the same time for this connection to work. So then what you do is you can select which citation style you want. I've just got the American Medical Association, or AMA, pulled up here. That's what we use in pharmacy. But if you don't see the style that you want or need to use, maybe you've got something really specific for a particular journal that you're publishing in, all you need to do is click on Manage Styles and then Get Additional Styles. And this will take you to a page that lists over 9,000 citation styles available. So it's out there. I bet you've got the citation style that you need here in the Zotero plugin. All right, but let's say I want to use AMA, so I'm going to have that highlighted and selected. And now my paper is set to that setting. So let's say, I'm typing, my first sentence, and this is a quote or something that I want to cite. So what I'll do is I'll add my citation, and you'll notice that it pulls up a mini Zotero pop-up box, and I can search for a citation in this upper right-hand corner, or I can navigate to wherever the citation lives in my Zotero account. So let's say back on the CDC, I wanted to cite that Zika virus website that I pulled up earlier. So once I find the correct citation, I just click OK. I can also, you'll notice here, it's based on whatever citation style you're using. In AMA, it is super numbers at the end of the sentence, but it will also do in-text citations like APA as well, with the, the author and the year and so on. But I can also add multiple citations if that was something that I wanted to do. So maybe I'm pulling, at the end of the paragraph, I want to cite 2 or 3 studies. I can do multiple sources that way by clicking on multiple source option. Let's see, let me go to another. And I just highlight which one I want. The little green arrow will allow it to come over here into the right-hand panel. Click on my second one and do the same thing. Click OK, and now I've got 2, 3 for the other citations that I need. Okay, so that's how you would add your in-text citations. And then when you're done writing your paper, you can also add a final bibliography. Just put your cursor wherever you want the bibliography to end up, so probably on a new page. But then I can click Add/Edit Bibliography, and after a couple seconds, it will add in that bibliography. And we're going to talk about this in just a second, but note that this bibliography is just a draft bibliography. It's not perfect, but it helps get you started. I would not say for any students or faculty out there that they should just use this and submit without, either submit their paper for a grade or submit their paper to a journal without looking through this with a fine-tooth comb. So we'll get to that in a second. I also just want to mention quickly that, I know we're starting to get really pressed for time, And I guess I'll just mention this. I don't really think we have time to go over it. But Zotero does have functionality with Google Chrome, so Google Documents, and it works the exact same way, but it just is a little more finicky. So there are bugs associated with it, and you should definitely be even more vigilant when you use it in Google Documents. It does work. So Erin, I'm just going to have you add anything about Zotero, or excuse me, Mendeley in Word.
Yep. All right. Sharing my screen. All right. So pretty similar. Mendeley's plugin's called Cite-O-Matic, and you'll see it in your menu ribbon here in Word under References. Okay. And you can see all of the commands are here, insert citation. You can search for it by author, title, or year. I'm just going to put these things in there, and you can put multiple ones. You'll see they're separated by a semicolon. And it's the style you can see is AMA, but you can easily change it, and it changes it immediately. So similarly, inserting the bibliography, that option is up here, and wherever your cursor is where the bibliography is going to show up. So not super different, just wanted to show you really quickly what it looked like. So in the interest of time, I'm going to keep moving on. I'm going to cover actually some stuff that is about Zotero because it's not really a demonstration. It's just about where to get help. So minimize that. All right, so, and this is information that Rachel shared with me. It has great information for troubleshooting any issues you might have. Because it's free, there are sometimes bugs, but you can typically get them worked out by looking at this page. This is a Zotero documentation page. There's an extensive outline. You can search the documentation. Apparently this is the first place Rachel comes when she's helping troubleshoot very finicky problems that faculty or students are having. And there are also the forums here where you can see if other people are having the same issue and what the resolution might be. Mendeley, oops, I did not mean to do that. Let me share again. Mendeley also has, come here, okay. Help documentation, guides here, videos and tutorials, as well as a searchable support center with frequently asked questions. Here. So we have 1 minute left and we just want to talk really quickly about tips and caveats. So, this is something that Rachel has mentioned, errors in how the citation information is entered in the database or website where you're taking the information from will of course make errors in your citations, so make sure to check them. You can manually edit citations within your Citation Manager, so even if the citation is entered incorrectly into your Citation Manager, you can change that and then you can, proceed to cite things correctly. They should be considered draft citations and draft bibliographies, as Rachel said. You'll need to go back through and make sure everything meets the standards of the citation style you're working with. One thing that Rachel mentioned is one thing that she worries about is that they may be causing us to lose our ability to read a citation because we're not generating them ourselves. We're not looking at the pieces of information that come together, if it's a journal article versus a website or a book chapter. So if you're looking at a list of citations at the end of an article, you might not really be able to understand, or a person who relies heavily on citation managers might not be able to understand what they're actually looking at. So it could be problematic. It's good for many reasons, including the fact that citation managers don't always do the things they're supposed to do. It's good to have a little bit of familiarity with how citations are constructed. That's just something to think about. It's basically, citation managers are good places to keep all your stuff together and organize them in the way you want with, folders and things, to share those things with other people, and also to give you like a draft bibliography. But it's good to understand like the citation styles that you're working with and what a citation is made of. All right, and if you have any more questions, you can ask now. Here's our contact information, as well as that citation tools guide that Rachel mentioned at the beginning that provides documentation, links to helpful resources, as well as contact information for those of us in the libraries who are consultants for the various citation managers. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Great job, Erin. Okay, and I do see, so for the interest of time, if anyone needs to leave, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for coming. Erin and I are gonna stick around. We're gonna answer these last couple of questions, but if you can't stick around, that's fine. This will all be included in the recording. So thanks again for attending today's webinar. And hopefully you learned some stuff about Zotero and Mendeley, and you have maybe a better idea of which one you might like to choose for your own usage. And I do see that there are a couple of questions that have come in that are specifically about Zotero, so I'm just going to kind of jump in and start answering those. So first one is, does Zotero work better in certain browsers? Does it work well with Chrome? I think Zotero works well in any browser. I've used it in all three. I will say I use it the most in Chrome, so yes, it definitely works well with Chrome. I use it almost all the time in Chrome. I do troubleshoot students or faculty who have it installed in Safari or in Firefox. Those are the only other two browsers it will work with, and it works the same. I have not noticed any issues with that are browser specific at all. Also, we have a question here from Denise saying that she had a doubt on deleting information on Zotero and by mistake deleted it from the whole library. I believe you mean from a single citation from your library. You deleted a single citation from your library by accident. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, Denise. If you could maybe extrapolate a little bit about that, that would help me answer the question. And if you, when deleting from one folder. So if you deleted one citation from a folder, it should still be in your My Library, and you would just have to go in and locate it. If it's not, you would just have to re-download it. That's the only thing I can really think of if that answers your question or not. And please feel free, if anyone else has questions, please ask away. Hi, Denise. So I see you're using Word to download a citation. Okay, so it sounds like you're having a problem with your Word plugin. And that might be just kind of an individual issue. I'm going to pull up, am I sharing my screen now? No, let me share. So I've got my Word document pulled up right here. So again, if you want to add a citation, you would just click on Add/Edit Citation, find whichever citation you would like. So let's try this one. All I need to do is click OK, and it will be added, and it probably won't add because I don't have a sentence, so here's my sentence. add/edit. I'm going to click on a citation, click OK, and you'll see it transferred and said citation very briefly, and then put in a number 4 there. Okay, great. Glad that solved it. And it looks like we do still have a number of participants sticking around, so if you guys do have questions, please ask. Denise, please feel free to keep asking questions. That's totally fine. And we can also always set up a one-on-one meeting too. That's also completely in the cards. And great, Holly, I'm glad that you figured out between Zotero and Mendeley which one you want. Yeah, Denise, you'll want to make sure you're definitely using Zotero 5.0. So if it's been a while, maybe you downloaded Zotero a few years ago. I know I've been using it for the past couple years. It has gone through some updates, so either check for an update or just uninstall one Zotero account and you can download the 5.0. Just make sure that all of your citations are backed up onto your account that you've registered for on the web. That way you don't lose your entire library. Make sure it's backed up on the web and you should be okay. Yes, let me put up my email address. It's on the slide somewhere. There you go. Koenig, Koenig @vcu.edu. Happy to help. All right, and it looks like it's just me and Erin and then Cindy. So Cindy, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to leave our webinar open for a couple more minutes in case you do have questions, but if not, I'll probably close it in another minute or two. But thank you so much for attending. Oh, okay, you're welcome. Yep.